Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on where you are. We are very excited to present our work on domain-specific content generation using human-bot collaboration. This is a work based on a project that enhances content in Indian languages, Wikipedia. Along with me is Praveen Garimella, who is technology head of the project. My name is Vasudeva Verma. I am a professor and principal investigator of this project. Coming to the topic of generating domain-specific content using human-bot collaboration, I would like to start with some background on about Indian languages and the presence of Wikipedia in Indian languages. Many of you know that a very small portion of Indian population speaks English, and that is somewhat functional English, 14% of them. But the ability to speak and write well and understand the knowledge articles well, that number goes down even lower. Though India is the second largest English-speaking population in the world. Not just that, even among all the nations that use English Wikipedia, India is in top 5. So in spite of all these very impressive numbers, we have a lot more to be desired in making use of Wikipedia to spread knowledge among its people. Another important aspect we should all know now is about the smartphone revolution in India. The 4G internets have become ubiquitous. It became like one of the most affordable nations of the very decent bandwidth and also the affordability of the phones. So there is a phone in everyone's hands these days. So this is an opportunity that is waiting for us to make people access content, make people access knowledge. And another point I would like to mention is the presence of Indian language Wikipedia articles. Even for the major Indian languages, if you take top 10 of them, there are less than 1% of the total English language articles that are present in Indian language Wikipedias. And in this background, we have set ourselves a very ambitious goal of creating 1 million articles in the most popular Indian languages, at least in top 10 to 14 languages. And we begin with language called Telugu and Hindi to start with. In order to enhance Indian language Wikipedia, we started with our strategy 101, 1.0, where the entire focus is on strengthening the community. We have connected with Telugu Wikipedia community. We connected with the local government as well as the central government. We began the trainers program. And then we have also spent a lot of time in spreading the word about the importance of building Wikipedia in local languages. So it attracted lots of people. We conducted several workshops, training sessions, and in short, we put in lots of efforts, more than 12 months, to build the community. However, in this 12 months or more of intense effort, there are about 2,000 articles that got generated. And then looking at the kind of effort that was put in and the kind of the tools that were built and so on, it proved to be not so great in terms of return on investment. However, the quality of the content that is created is acceptable, is not great, but it is useful, right? So these are all the lessons that we got from our strategy 1.0. Then also the other observation is the community articles. The growth has plateaued because of several reasons. In hindsight, after an analysis, it turns out that the low culture of volunteering is a main cause. After some time, people kind of lose the interest unless there is some incentive, financial incentive, or otherwise there has to be, the people coming back and then working with Wikipedia enhancement is low. And this can be attributed to a lot of worldwide phenomenon, but it is, we felt that it is very high in our communities. And another hurdle is the low digital literacy. There are people who are very good in language, they have the subject matter expertise, but they're not able to put everything in the form of Wikipedia articles. First reason is it is non-trivial task to create a Wikipedia article for somebody who has a low digital literacy. And we have also initiated an effort to be able to, people to edit on smartphones in Indian languages. Even that proved to be ineffective because of the real estate that is available in smartphones. So the second thing that what we tried on is increase the dose of technology to speed up the development. So we are looking at what are the possible solutions. And coming from natural language processing, artificial intelligence, machine learning backgrounds, we have hit upon this strategy, what we would like to call as strategy 2.0, that is primarily driven by technology. The earlier strategy 1.0, is primarily driven by the humans, the community, and assisted by technology. Now, we just turned the whole thing upside down, and here technology is primary force and humans are supporting this particular the project, right? So human assisted, technology driven is the strategy that we have adopted. So translation from English to Indian languages is being tried out, machine translation especially. And then we also kind of looked upon creating a framework to generate articles purely from data, and of course a sophisticated version, which is knowledge graphs, including Wikidata. So in this way, we have kind of worked with several computer science interns. After conducting several filtering criteria, we have chosen 40 computer science students who are also very good in local languages. And such students were actually, they have spent about 3 months looking at some of these problems. And then we also used the language experts in the crowdsourcing platform to fill the gaps where technology cannot fulfill. We have figured out after a lot of experience that machine translation from English to most of the Indian languages is ineffective because the translation quality, when it goes down below threshold, the blue score is supposed to be a metric to determines the quality of machine translation. If the blue score quality is lower than 0.4 or 0.5, the effort that is required to correct the translated articles is a lot more than actually starting from ground up. So there was a talk by Dr. Radhika Mamidi on 14th on whether to translate or not, and people who are interested can take a look at that particular talk. And now coming to article generation, we were inspired by LSJ bot effort that kind of generated several articles in Spanish and Shabano and other languages, Swedish and Shabano and other languages. And then we kind of took that as an inspiration and started building Indic Wikibot. And this bot is expected to generate articles from the structured data and knowledge graphs using natural language generation frameworks. And there was an extensive research that was done to create end-to-end articles using bots, of course, with significant assistance from the humans. This is our framework where there are actually 4 stages. The first stage is where the human experts look at one domain after another. So they actually focus on creating articles in a specific domain. For example, about all the notable hospitals or notable colleges, universities, notable cars, or the cricket players or the football players. So specific sports domains, entertainment domains, movies, movie artists, and so on. So there are domain after domain. You actually go and gather that information. So we first get all the domain attributes, and then we try to figure out the structure of the domain in terms of what attributes are actually there's a taxonomy or an ontology within the domain. Then identifying all the resources, knowledge graphs, databases that are available in the specific domain. Of course, looking at the authenticity of this data and so on. Then we built a scraper or web crawling or data crawling technology to get all this data. Then from there, again from human experts, we create templates where this data fits in. And then from these templates, we actually generate articles in the target language. And there is a lot of effort to translate and transliterate English or other language content into Indian languages. The second phase of this particular collaboration workflow is that iterative development. So can the bots automatically add to the raw data or the raw Wikipedia article that got generated in the first phase, in the form of adding categories, in the form of adding info boxes, pictures, reference links, and inter-wiki links, and maybe discovering some additional content from yet another reliable source and then adding that. So in the first phase, you get the raw Wikipedia page. In the second phase, iteratively, you add more and more information to enrich that particular Wikipedia page. And in the third phase, this is where lots of human help that is required to validate and correct the sentences and then actually the entire Wikipedia article. So a lot of editing activity. And this is where we have gotten another major component of our framework, which is micro content development platform. This is where smaller units of information is being corrected and then also added. For example, micro content development platforms will ask the people to translate a particular phrase that exists, right? It may ask you to translate a particular sentence. It may ask you to add one image and so on. So things of that kind which will validate and correct the sentences. And then this is where, with the human help, you have a Wikipedia article that is very rich in terms of its form, content, and usefulness. And finally, once this is in place, we make all these pages available to the community to review and integrate with the global Wikipedia. So these are the 4 phases of our entire framework that we have worked on. So this resulted, we have actually spent about like last summer with 40 computer science undergrad students, and then we are able to generate 100,000 articles. They are very rich and they are very useful. And Praveen, when he is showing the tools and demos, you'll be able to experience the kind of articles that are being generated. And the article quality has been enhanced by the human experts. Again, this takes a lot more time, but this is a step that is required before we make this available to the entire community. To begin with, we have conducted several bootcamp topics to make our interns and our experts understand the wiki environment and also the data collection methods, how to search, access data using APIs, web scraping, spreadsheet management, and so on. And then introduce them to several translation and transliteration systems. And then issues about template generation, article generation, and of course, following very proven project management aspects like Scrum methodology and so on in order to prepare these students as well as the other contributors, volunteers well for this particular task. So there are, I was talking about micro content development platforms. These are the tools with intelligent human interface that are developed to crowdsource the content. So for example, using these MCD tools, errors in the bot generated articles are corrected, and then articles are also enhanced with the new data. So this is where I will stop and request Praveen to take over and walk us through the demos and other things, the tools that are developed. Thank you.
Dr.
Praveen,
Vasu.
you may take over.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vasu. So I would now like to go through the outcomes of all the effort that was put in. There's a very systematic and a planned process which led to generating 100,000 articles. And on the screen, you would see this is one of our first bot generated articles on a domain called Carnatic music. You may be familiar with the very popular Carnatic music. We had one of our colleagues who was extremely passionate about this domain and is very knowledgeable. And he thoroughly understood the rule sets of the Carnatic music, using which he was able to create a bot which generated several thousand 1,000 articles on the Carnatic music. And the good thing about these articles is the structure of the Wikipedia article is maintained, where there's a very nice introduction to um, the article at the top. Then you have several sections which walk through the rule set of the melodies and the places, references to various places in which the melody was actually used. And on the right hand side, you would also see the info box, which is generated, which summarizes various attributes of the Carnatic music. And in addition to the info box, we were also able to dynamically generate some of the visual representations of these melodies so that it becomes very useful to people. Now, these articles may not look very dense in terms of the content in the text, but it is found to be extremely useful for someone who wants to learn about Carnatic music. Now, from this inspiration, we extended these ideas to various other domains. And one of the domains was to generate articles about vehicles. There's several cars in the world, and there's structured data sets that are available for cars. For example, the one that you're seeing on the screen now, you're not expected to read it. It's all in Telugu, but this article is on Audi A3, and it again if you see the content, it is a lot more richer compared to what we have seen in the previous article. It includes several tables with the attributes. In this case, it is the specification of the engine that comes with the Audi A3, and several other hyperlinks to various references in the articles. These hyperlinks are the interwiki links that go on. And on the right hand side, you can also see that we attempted to put some images, but then we could not really find images which are part of the CC, so those are not included. And the info box is also not as exhaustive, but then this was the bare minimum data set that we were able to get for this particular article. Now, there were other domains that were taken too. One of the very popular ones is on the soccer players. And this one goes slightly better than the vehicles. You see the pictures which are available in the under the CC license. Uh, the great thing I really like about the article is the article was also able to analyze various strengths and weaknesses of the player, and these weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses are also described in these articles. And so that required us to do a lot of research in terms of getting all the structured data sets about the players. And then once we have these data sets, we had to kind of convert these data attributes and the values into sentences. You will notice that these sentences are of much better structure compared to how the machine generated sentences would be. And so that's the advantage we really got with the approach which Dr. Vasu described on his slide deck. Um, After generating all of these articles, there was a very strong requirement for us to do quality checks to see if there are any errors that were there, and if there's any missing data, because some of the domains had very sparse data sets. And we really had to identify ways in which we can uh, improve or enhance and also correct the articles in case there are any errors. And here comes the crowdsourced effort to understand how to break these tasks into smaller micro content development tasks and delegate to a very large number of people who could then look at these sentences and the data to correct it, validate it, and then submit it back to us. And when those are submitted, you kind of bring those corrections back and then integrate them into the article to enhance the quality. So that was the strategy used, and it's a non-trivial task to get these corrections done, especially in the Indian languages, because of the low levels of digital literacy. The tools had to be much better. So we had to create specialized intelligent user interfaces for people to have access to, very quick, faster ways of doing these corrections. So the crowdsource, so this is one of those tools where the crowdsourced activities, tasks are set up, and then there's one which has the translation task, and then there are tasks related to the cities project and book summarization and so on. So if I go to one of these tasks, these tasks are, there's a description which is given in terms of what exactly needs to be done, and then people are able to just start the task and then look at various sessions that are set up. Each session has a set of questions that they're expected to complete. So in this particular case, the session one, 10% of the work is already done in the session. So if I go to the session, you would see that all the questions, these are all set up as a question and answer mode. So all these questions are there, and there is an indicator of the questions that are already answered. And if there is no checkbox, that indicates that the question isn't answered. So using this tool, people are able to very quickly make use of it to do the corrections. So, for example, if I took one of this question and if I want to correct it, um, I, if it is already correct, the machine translated version is here. If this is already correct, then I can select the correct and then submit it. Otherwise, I have an option to modify it. Now, this is where the intelligence comes in, where people, if they have to type any of the text into it, they need some of these input tools that are available. And we use the Google input tools in this case in order to type in all of these sentences. But the good thing about the tool is we don't have to use a separate extension. Even without the extension, it is possible for people to make use of it because it is built into it. Because of the low levels of digital literacy, it's not easy for people to manage extensions and create, the settings and so on. So they just have to open the browser either in their mobile phone or on the desktop and then start typing it in. So, and then you can see how, the text automatically shows up and then they're able to submit it here. So this is one of those tools. And then there is also an alternate version of the tool, which is more specific to the Wikipedia article structure. For example, we have several books related articles that are created. And for that, we had to again do this crowdsourced activity. This is a system which is in production right now. And so I'll pick one of the tasks which someone did not work on. So if you see on the left hand side, all of these sections that you see on the left are the ones which are attributes, and then the values of these attributes are given here along with the translation. So the crowd essentially looks at the screen, reviews if the translation is right, corrects it, and then submits it. And that's how we very quickly delegate all of these tasks from this intelligent user interface system and then assign it to the crowd. So those are the tools, which we have been using in order to have all of the quality assurance related to the bot generated articles done. And so I hope you got a good idea of the outcomes that we have achieved using this. So with that, I think we have 3 minutes left, and we will see if there are any questions and then try to answer them. So I'm looking at my Etherpad if there are any questions. So I don't see any questions on the Etherpad. Dr. Vasu, if you would like to conclude.
Sure. Thank you, Praveen, for taking us through all these demos and the articles and the tools. So the whole idea here is to only experiment with a few languages, learn these lessons, and then scale it not only to other Indian languages, but any resource poor language in the world. So we hope to see some of these tools and the work that we have done to be useful to the other communities in developing Wikipedia pages. We also are aware of the experiment of abstract Wikipedia, and then there is a connection with what we are doing and what abstract Wikipedia is, and this is a step before the abstract Wikipedia really takes up. So we are looking forward to working with the entire community to enhance what we have started. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, 79.